Every single person in this video had one thing in common. They knew, before the bank account hit zero, before the calls from collectors started, before the caster marriage fell apart, or the business closed, or the retirement disappeared. They knew something was wrong, and they went online in the middle of the night, and they typed it out, anonymously, honestly, sometimes with a kind of brutal self-awareness that is genuinely hard to read. These aren't stories about people who were blindsided. These are stories about people who could see exactly where they were headed and couldn't stop. That is the most disturbing part, not the money, the psychology. Stay with me, because confession number 3 is going to stop you cold. Before we get into these, I want to tell you why I'm not just going to read you confession posts and move on, because the confessions are not the point. The psychology underneath each one, that's the point. Every single story in this video maps to a documented psychological pattern that researchers have studied, named, and proven. These people weren't weak. They weren't stupid. They were human, and their brains were doing exactly what human brains are designed to do in financial environments that human brains were never designed to navigate. Understanding that distinction is the difference between judging these people and recognizing yourself in them. And some of you will. Let's go. A man posted to a financial confession thread, username deleted, as they often are, and wrote this: I have been lying to my wife about our finances for 4 years. She thinks we have $40,000 in our savings account. We have $800. I've been moving money around, creating fake screenshots of our bank balance, and intercepting the mail so she doesn't see the real statements. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. I don't even know when it started feeling normal. $800. 4 years. Fake screenshots. But here's the question nobody asks about this story. Why didn't he just tell her? The answer is not cowardice. It's a psychological phenomenon called financial shame, spiraling. Here is how it works. The first lie is small. Maybe he overspent 1 month and said things were fine. The brain registers that the lie worked tension avoided. No fight, no consequence, relief. So the next time there's financial stress, the brain already has a template. Lie, get relief. But every lie requires a larger lie to cover it, and the deeper the hole gets, the more impossible the truth becomes to tell, because now it's not just, we overspent this. Now it's, I have been deceiving you for 4 years. The shame of the original problem is nothing compared to the shame of the deception that grew around it. And so people don't come clean. They go deeper. They build elaborate systems to maintain the fiction. Fake screenshots, intercepted mail, alternative realities maintained in parallel to the actual one. The confession came 18 months before his wife found out on her own. By then, they had taken out 3 separate loans she didn't know about. They lost the house. The money was the problem. The silence made it catastrophic. This one came from a Reddit community built around financial accountability. Posted during the pandemic. I just added up everything I spent on DoorDash over the last 14 months. $10,000. I kept telling myself it was just stress spending. I kept thinking each order would be the one that made me feel better. I don't even remember most of the meals. That money was supposed to be my emergency fund. I feel like I'm going to be sick. $10,000 on food delivery in 14 months. And I want you to understand something before you react to that number. Because the temptation is to say, how does that happen? How do you not notice? But that's exactly the wrong question. They did notice. They noticed every time. What they were experiencing is called emotional spending, specifically the dopamine reward loop that food delivery was triggering during a period of acute psychological stress. Here's the neuroscience. When the brain is under sustained stress, isolation, uncertainty, grief, fear, it craves dopamine hits, fast ones, reliable ones. And food delivery is, from the brain's perspective, almost perfectly engineered for this. You feel bad. You open the app. There's a moment of anticipation. Dopamine begins. Rising. You scroll. You choose. You order. More dopamine. The knock at the door. Dopamine peak. You eat. Brief comfort. And then 15 minutes later, the feeling is gone. But the app is still there. The order wasn't about hunger. It was about the only reliable relief available to a brain, drowning in cortisol. The fact that it cost $10,000 is genuinely almost secondary. What this person described the feeling that each order would be the one that finally made them feel better. That is the definition of a behavioral loop that has broken free from rational override. They knew. They confessed it in real time. They couldn't stop anyway. That's not weakness. That's a brain doing what brains do under pressure. And it is worth understanding before it happens to you in whatever form it takes for you, because it doesn't have to be food delivery. It can be anything that gives the brain a fast, reliable dopamine hit when life feels unmanageable. This is the one I told you about at the start. This one will sit with you. Posted to a confession subreddit. No username, just the words. I'm pretending to be rich with my close friends. Every time we go out, we spend on expensive dinners, designer clothes, weekend trips. For them, it's nothing. For me, it's eating my savings and pushing me into debt. I'm terrified every time my card is about to be used. I genuinely don't know why I keep doing this. I don't even enjoy it anymore. I feel nothing at the dinners except dread, but I can't stop. I don't want to be the poor friend. I don't want to be the poor friend. That sentence right there, that is the confession inside the confession. Because this isn't about money at all. This is about identity, about belonging, about the terror of being seen as less by the people whose approval you've decided determines your worth. Psychologists call this social identity theory. We don't just want money for what it buys. We want it for what it signals, for the group membership it appears to grant. And here's the disturbing mechanism at work. This person had already stopped enjoying the dinners. They felt nothing except dread. The very experiences they were bankrupting themselves to participate in were producing zero pleasure. And yet they kept going. Why? Because the alternative, being seen, being known, being the poor friend, felt more threatening to the brain than financial ruin. Let me say that clearly. The brain assessed financial destruction as less dangerous than social exclusion. And from an evolutionary standpoint, that actually makes a horrible kind of sense. For most of human history, being excluded from the group meant death. The brain treats social rejection as a survival threat. So it will sacrifice the savings account to avoid the table of people turning their eyes away. This person posted their confession 14 months before they told their friends the cumberat truth. They lost their apartment in the interim. One friend stopped speaking to them when they finally came clean. 4 others said they had no idea and would never have cared. 4 years, debt, lost apartment. To avoid a conversation that most of the people involved wouldn't have even remembered the following week. The money was never the real cost. This one is from a high-income financial forum, not a confession subreddit. A community for people who earn well and are supposed to know better. I need to say this somewhere. I earn $180,000 a year. I have $400 in my checking account. I have no savings. I have no investments. I have a car lease I can't afford. An nest apartment that costs $4,200 a month and credit card debt that keeps growing faster than I can pay it. I've been earning this salary for 6 years. I have nothing to show for it. I am one missed paycheck from catastrophe. I am genuinely frightened. 6 years, $180,000 a year, $1 million plus in earnings, $400 to show for it. This has a name: lifestyle inflation. or as researchers more precisely call it, expenditure cascades. Here is how it destroys even high earners. The raise comes. The new salary feels incredible. Then, within weeks, a new baseline forms. The apartment that felt fine before suddenly feels inconsistent with who you are. Now, the car that worked perfectly now feels wrong for someone at your level. The restaurants you used to love don't quite match the image. And so spending rises to meet income. Always. Automatically. Without any conscious decision being made. The terrifying insight from this confession is the 6 years. This person didn't make a single big mistake. They made 6 years of small, completely reasonable feeling decisions. Each one a natural response to their income level. Each one defensible in isolation that collectively left them one missed paycheck from financial collapse on $180,000 a year. The income never mattered as much as the gap between income and spending, and the gap can be ruinous at any income level. A person earning $40,000 and spending $35,000 is building more wealth than someone earning $180,000 and spending $190,000. The number in your paycheck means almost nothing on its own. The distance between what comes in and what goes out, that's the only number that builds a life. The last one is the one that will stay with you longest. A man in his late 50s posted to a personal finance forum. He wasn't asking for advice. He just needed to say it. I watched my retirement account lose 60% of its value during the market crash. Every single day, I told myself I would wait one more day before deciding what to do. One more day turned into 4 months. I kept thinking it would come back. I knew I should talk to someone. I knew I should do something. I just kept watching the number go down. I'm 58. I have $31,000 saved for retirement. I waited too long. I'm going to have to work until I die. And I did this to myself by doing nothing. By doing nothing. This is the confession that nobody wants to see themselves in, because it doesn't involve reckless spending, or addiction, or deception. It involves paralysis. What this man experienced has a precise name in behavioral economics: analysis. Paralysis, compounded by loss aversion. Here's how it trapped him. When the portfolio started dropping, his loss aversion activated immediately, the same mechanism we discussed before, where losses feel twice as painful as equivalent gains. Feel good. Every day he didn't sell, he was technically avoiding locking in the loss. As long as he didn't act, the loss wasn't final. It was still theoretical, still reversible. The brain finds enormous comfort in that fiction. And so, one more day was not procrastination. It was the brain's loss aversion system, making what felt like the least painful choice available at that moment. The tragedy is that this choice, the choice that felt least painful every single day, accumulated into the most painful outcome possible. 4 months of least painful daily choices produced a lifetime of consequence. And he saw it happening. He confessed it in real time. He couldn't make himself move because the brain was not optimizing for his 8-year-old self watching the total. It was optimizing for his present moment self, trying to avoid the feeling of a confirmed loss on that specific day. The present brain and the future self are not the same person, and the present brain wins almost every time. 5 confessions. 5 different people. 5 very different circumstances. 1 through line. Every single one of them could see what was happening. The man hiding the bank statements. The person spending their emergency fund on delivery they don't even remember eating. The one bleeding out financially at dinners they no longer enjoyed. The high earner with nothing. The man watching the number fall. They all knew, and that is the most important thing this channel will ever say to you. Financial destruction rarely comes from ignorance. It comes from psychology, from shame that silences, from loops that feel good just long, enough to keep running, from identity that costs more than it's worth, From income that rises to meet spending without anyone ever deciding that. From paralysis that protects to you today and ruins you tomorrow. The confession is not the failure. The confession is the moment of clarity that the brain finally allows when it can't maintain the fiction any longer. The real question is whether you wait for that moment to arrive or whether you create it yourself, deliberately, before the damage is done. That's the difference between reading these stories and living them. This is Classy Wealth. And if this found you at the right moment, you already know what to do.